I might as well do it myself. I give them the task and it's done poorly or not at all. And my response is, then you're not delegating properly. There's an art to delegating. It's not just here, do this. You have to use the acronym of SMART delegation, making sure it's specific, achievable, relevant, and timely. Just boil it down to paint a picture of what you want done. Make sure this picture is very clear as to the outcome you're looking for, not only in terms of what does a good job look like when this project or task is complete, but when should it be complete and all of that.
This is The Rise Leader, the podcast dedicated to empowering today's leaders to create lasting impact. Each episode delivers insights, strategies, and inspiration from top professionals and visionary thinkers, designed for those leading teams on the front lines and from the executive suite. Discover actionable tools and inspiring stories to elevate your leadership journey. Step up, make a difference, and join the Rise Leader community.
With over 40 years of invaluable experience scaling businesses and mastering the art of effective systemization, Ral West is not your average entrepreneur. She is a seasoned professional with a track record of success. Ral honed her business acumen with real-life experience. She is a master at the practical implementation of business theory to create effective processes that transform business and multiply success. Ral's journey is a testament to the belief that you don't have to choose between business success and personal freedom. I love the theme of all of that. Ral, welcome to the Rise Leader podcast. I appreciate your time to talk with the community today.
It's wonderful to be here, and I'm sure we're going to have a great chat.
The first question that I love to ask all of my guests is related to your career path and what has ultimately shaped your leadership style. So maybe you can answer the question and unpack a little bit more about your career's trajectory.
My career started well over 40 years ago in my mid-20s in Anchorage, Alaska. I started a marketing consulting and advertising agency specializing in tourism. Shortly after that, I met my husband. We started working together and grew that business for 25 years, ended up with 8 digits in annual revenue, and we sold it to Alaska Airlines. We went from being the mom and pop running the business day to day with our fingers in every pie of the business to learning how to be the owner rather than the operator. We could step back and let the business run on its own. And that's the point at which it was marketable for a sale to Alaska Airlines. And then we've not stopped. We've created other businesses and had other investments. Less than 2 years ago, I started yet another business. I'd say that my leadership style has shifted quite a bit from being the boss and telling everybody what they needed to do to now my focus is more on teaching and being an example and trying to be an inspiration through don't just do what I do, but watch what I do and let me show you how you can make changes in your life to make your life and your business better.
So, of course, the main theme of the podcast is to give the community actionable tools to improve their situation. We have a range of leaders on the front lines doing work and executive leaders. I really loved your 6 secrets to business success. I wondered if you would unpack that for the community and maybe we can pitch and catch on the various elements of that.
So I looked back when I started this new business over my 4+ decades of experience and tried to pick out the main ingredients for our success. What set us apart from other businesses? Those 6 principles that arose from that investigation start with number 1 being systems. Have systems to run a business that can grow beyond the mom and pop. The second is to make sure that you have data tracking, measure your performance, create reports so that you can do database management and monitor your business from wherever you are. That really allows you more freedom to have, a more hands-off approach to your business.
Right.
And number three is systems give you leverage. Delegating gives you leverage, proper delegating. I've experienced successes and failures, the right way and the wrong way to delegate.
Right.
One of them, of course, being education, exposing yourself to other minds and people who know more than you do. That's a fantastic form of leverage.
Sure.
The next is your team. You have to build a team. I don't care how small your business is, you need a team. Even if it's contract people, a virtual assistant, a bookkeeper, whatever it is, that's your team. And you need to empower your team. You need to make sure that there's alignment in your team, all going in the same direction, going after the same goal.
Sure.
Next is your culture. This is something many businesses neglect to pay attention to. We were incredibly intentional about our culture, maybe not from the beginning, but when we started learning more, we realized that it was very important to be purposeful and intentional about building a culture that would impact our team, our community, our customers, and let everybody know what we stood for, what our guiding values and principles are. This was a huge boost to our success.
I love that. Love
Yeah.
that.
And
So,
then, oh, go ahead.
no, I want to go back and unpack a couple of those a little bit deeper.
Number six is customer service, or as I like to say, how to delight your customers.
Right.
That's incredibly important.
Let's go back to systems for a minute. I love the fact that you refer to it as the simple systems. Just to retread on my career a little bit, I worked home building industry, worked for home builders, and then ultimately became a public home builder. If anybody knows about corporate, it's about systems. I work with a lot of contractors since getting into coaching and consulting, smaller organizations, mostly private. Systems, to be quite frank, doesn't seem to be a strong suit within my industry. I'd love to have you use your experience on what you've worked on in your own businesses or what you've helped others with. Can you highlight some parts of the simple systems that you think might be helpful to the community?
Yes, I'd be happy to. We've had some experiences being on the customer end, not happy
Mm,
experiences. SIMPLE is an acronym that stands for standardization, instructions, manuals, policies, logistics, and efficiency. All of these are integral to creating systems that will make your company more efficient and produce the product that your customer wants consistently. Somebody asked recently, would you keep going back to McDonald's if every time you went there the hamburger was different? No,
right,
you want to have consistency as a customer. This is one thing, particularly in the contracting space. They're very good at their craft, but horrible at running a business in an efficient, systematic way. To me, it's not hard because I've been doing it for so long,
right,
but you have to have organization because you can't have systems without being organized. That takes some planning and being able to step back from the doing of your job to looking at the big picture, maybe taking that 10,000-foot view of your business. Systems help you create consistent paths and processes, make sure you have like manuals, written policies and procedures that this is how things need to happen all the time. Make sure your team is well versed in those policies and procedures. Use automation. There's really no excuse for not using automation today. AI is in its infancy, but if you're not using AI, you're behind the eight ball. So create the systems, use the technology, build your team, write things down, make sure there's a step by step process for getting things done.
right. Two observations based on your comments. Number one, you use the term, there's really no excuse. My observation has been part of the excuse, which I refer to as victims of our own success. Now that I'm working a lot with contractors, I see a lot of success on their end. I'm going to refer to it as financial success to
Right.
start with. Fortunately, we're in a pretty abundant industry and a great market here locally. And there's a lot of financial abundance that's flowing through. And so that's why I refer to it as victims of their own success. They are out there producing financially and earning. But the problems I see with that are usually a founder or an owner of an organization. You couldn't take a 1 or 2 week trip to Europe if you wanted to, because you'd come back and your business would be a crater. You haven't empowered other people to do things, or you don't have systems that run without you. My whole point is, why wouldn't you just want to have both? You've already built a successful business financially. Not everybody wants to work themselves out of a job, but how about work yourself into a place where you could enjoy some of the fruits of your own abundance, right? So that's point number one about the victims of success. And then point number two is all of the simple systems, the training and the policies. Unfortunately, that stuff is just not sexy. There are people that consider things like that sexy, but most of the folks that I work with, at least in this industry, it's just hard to commit to doing those things. And when you have this other side of the equation that is financially abundant, then why do I want to invest time in policies? I remember one of the things you told me on that call last year was, after you've written the policy manuals and things of that nature, you need to have a rigorous discipline to go back. I think you suggested annually and review those to make sure, because we all know how life works. Things evolve. And if you don't have a regular cadence of review, then those documents get out of alignment or out of touch. Those are my two observations based on what I've seen a lot here in my industry. So, any thoughts on that? I would love to hear a compelling argument from somebody that's done as much business as you have on why these things, even though they might not be sexy, are worth the effort, and how that might lead to that first part where you might be financially abundant, but there's so many other benefits of focusing on these elements.
I want to talk about the cost of not using these systems. You might be financially successful, but what's the cost to their life? What's the cost to their relationships, their family, their health, if they are tied to the business so much that they can't take a break? If they have to be there all the time, watching every little piece and particle of their business to make sure it's done right, that is not freedom. That's not my definition of success. And when you talk about creating systems, processes, procedures, manuals, et cetera, whether that's sexy, well, no, but having the life that you really want, that's sexy,
Right.
I think. Being able to take off and go to Europe for 6 weeks and not have to worry about the company while you're gone, that's sexy. So, what is it that you really want? How do you define success? Is it just monetary, or are there other aspects to your life that you need to add into that equation? Let's talk about mental health. Let's talk about physical health. Let's talk about the well being of your team. If they're just waiting for you to tell them what to do all the time, does that make them feel successful and empowered? Are they going to be in alignment with helping your company grow? So, what are your long term objectives? I have an online course, and one of the very first module of that course is identify what you want for your life 10, 20, 30 years down the line. What is the life you really envision? Is it working yourself to the bone every day? Or do you have another vision of being able to enjoy your life, spend time with your family and your friends, do some traveling or play golf or go fishing? Get that vision in your mind and then build the business so that it supports that vision instead of the other way around.
I
I think
love
a
that.
lot of business owners get it backwards.
Right.
You want to be the business owner. You don't want to be the business operator. You don't want to have your hands in every aspect of your business day in, day out. You need to be able to step back. Financial success is going to be limited by how much you, as the sole operator of the business, can do. You're going to run up against your own personal limitations unless you grow the systems and create your team and culture that can allow the business to grow to the point where it has value on its own. We would never have been able to sell our business to Alaska Airlines if we had still been the mom and pop running it. We stepped back and hired managers to run the business for us. We had set up all the systems, and we had the foundation laid. We had the team, the culture, the data tracking, the reports, the measurements. And then several years later, we were able to have a nice, juicy exit from that business because we were not the operators of that business.
That's a
So
beautiful thing.
that takes some forethought and some planning and some intention to
Gotcha.
create a business that is marketable. So
Love that.
the question is, what do you really want for your life? Do you want to be a slave to your business, or do you want to be the owner reaping the benefits of that business?
Love that. So maybe before we leave simple systems, I also wanted to focus on efficiency. From your experience, what are the types of efficiencies that, and by implementing all the other things we talked about, the standardization and instructions and all that, that is the key to efficiency. Your observations based on the businesses that you've built and sold and working with other organizations, what are the type of efficiencies that you should expect by doing the hard work that is all the other elements?
I'd say the greatest leap in efficiency for us was automation. We had a business where we were operating wide body jets between Alaska and Hawaii, carrying over 30,000 passengers a year. For many years, our reservations were taken by sales agents over the phone,
Mm,
talking to travel agents or individual passengers. And that was very labor intensive. We made the decision to invest in developing an online reservation system. We ended up being the beta,
mm,
and it cost us well over six digits and almost 2 years to develop this automation. And the minute we flipped the switch and started taking reservations online, we were not only able to reduce our staff by almost half, but the volume of business just multiplied. It was like exponential growth. So that was a huge leap in efficiency, far more efficient to let the technology do the work for you. Our watchword was, if technology can do it, use technology. Don't rely on labor and humans. There's always an element of human error. You've got a much more efficient and effective operation if you're using technology. If your business is not taking reservations, your technology would be different. Using AI, getting some of your processes streamlined, your billing, paying, your accounting, managing your appointments, managing your email inbox. All of these can be done with AI or other software. For over 10 years, I've used a task management tool that has served me well to juggle many balls in the air without dropping them. And I have people like my CPAs and bankers saying, how is it that you're able to keep track of all these things and you're always following through and making sure that we're getting this or that done? I said, well, I have a secret weapon. I have my software that I use that enables me to keep track of everything from my own personal doctor's appointments and birthdays to taxes and financials and, you know,
of software you use to help with your efficiency.
I call it my brain because if I lost that thing, oh boy, you know.
Let's segue to leverage. One of the things we're going to talk about is effective delegation. Delegation is the number one thing when I'm doing work with frontline leaders and executives. I say, if you wanted to just pick one thing, this is one keystone skill that would make your life better and the business better if you were to become better at it. Let's talk about leverage. It could be delegation, it can be other things, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on getting leverage in business.
There are many leveraging tools that you can use, but I do think that delegation is a key one. And it's one that many people do poorly. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard someone say, "Well, I can't let anybody else do this because they just wouldn't do it right. I
Right.
might as well do it myself." I give them the task and it's done poorly or not at all. And my response is, then you're not delegating properly. There's an art to delegating. It's not just here, do this. You have to use the acronym of SMART delegation, making sure it's specific, achievable, relevant, and timely. Just boil it down to paint a picture of what you want done. Make sure this picture is very clear as to the outcome you're looking for, not only in terms of what does a good job look like when this project or task is complete, but when should it be complete and all of that. It behooves you to not just hand it off. You've outlined it clearly, you've designated the outcome you want, you've said when you want it done, and then you're still not done with delegating. You have to follow through. You have to create a system for a feedback loop where you go back to the person or team to whom you've delegated and check in with them and say, okay, what's your progress? Where are you at? Let me take a look at it. Ronald Reagan had that line, trust but verify.
Hmm.
That's what you need to do when you're a delegator. You can't just delegate and then walk away. No, you're not done with it until the job has been completed as per your desired outcome. It's really not that complicated, but it's amazing how many people do it poorly.
Right. I think this is a natural tie back to what we were just talking about with the simple systems, right? What I see here are process manuals and standardization. I see a lot in our industry and what I coach these organizations to do. How many people are hiring folks for their organization that they don't even have a job description, something that
Ah,
outlines the job responsibilities and what they expect to have done. And, even if they do have a job description, they come to work. I love how you talked about the feedback loop. I work with organizations that don't even have an annual review. In my mind, it should be more than annual, like
yes.
at least semi-annual review. And then underpinning that would be what's the frequency of structured communication that you have, sitting down one-on-one with your direct reports and actually having an agenda. My very simple agenda is 3 points. And I believe the direct report runs the meeting. They come into the meeting and say, number one on the list, here's how things are going in my world. Are the trains running on time? My key metrics, how I'm doing and how my team is doing. And then number two on the list is always, how do I need support from you? So you're asking the leader. And I always saw leadership as like removing obstacles for other people and seeing things from a higher level. And then number three is the most fun because number three is now where the leader gets to give the direct report feedback. I love how what you were just talking about with delegation seems to go back to the simple systems piece. And if
Mm.
you have those simple systems in place, then that underpins that effective delegation you were just alluding to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all intertwined. What I call these principles is like a six-legged stool. You really can't have just one or two or three legs. You have to have all six, and they all work together. You can't have systems without delegating, delegating without systems. If you don't start with the basics of how we run this company, how our product is produced, how we deliver it to our customers, and what actions need to be taken along that process, you don't have a clear picture of that and sort of draw it out. You need to get down to the basics. Sometimes it seems minuscule in terms of the details, but that's important.
Right.
You made some very good points about having the metrics, but you can't have somebody deliver unless you had the systems and metrics set up.
Right.
They wouldn't know what they needed to report to you. So
Right.
you have to establish that for them.
Sure.
So you have to put the proper hat on, their role in the
Gotcha.
organization. It's like a machine, all different cogs have to be working together or the
Right.
machine is going to fall apart. As the owner, you have to keep all those different parts oiled and maintained so that they work smoothly. That's your job.
Right. Cool. Well, you alluded to this in your opening by referencing personal development. You'd mentioned to me when we had chatted prior about some of the real driving forces or influences that you've had in your career. I think we're exactly on the same page. We believe that our own personal development is the key to our own learning, but then opening up that broader mindset and skill set helps us improve as leaders. I'd love to have you talk with the community about how personal development has influenced your career and maybe even some of the key figures or pieces of work that have been the most influential to you.
You bet. When talking about leverage, personal development is one of the best forms of leverage. We cannot know it all without getting mentorship and guidance and pulling knowledge from other sources. So
Right.
it's very important. We've spent probably hundreds of thousands of dollars on education, not just college. We started learning from Robert Kiyosaki in the
Mm,
1980s, way before he wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We attended some of his courses in Anchorage. We credit him for a lot of the success we have enjoyed because we took his advice.
mm,
And he's been a tremendous mentor for us. I've studied with Tony Robbins a lot. He's another tremendous source of knowledge, and he knows how to pull in other experts to his program so that you're getting the advantage of not just his wealth of knowledge, but others.
right.
And I still invest thousands of dollars every year in education. I'm addicted to learning and growing. It's an addiction that I'm not seeking a cure for. I intend to keep it going the rest of my life. I think that personal development, getting mentors, studying, reading books, listening to podcasts,
Right.
and keeping your mind active is incredibly important for being a leader. Many things I've learned have nothing to do with business. They have to do with my own personal mindset and learning how to take care of myself and learning how to make my health a priority, particularly as I get older. I go to the gym, stay strong and healthy, and eat right. That's part of my definition of success and part of my definition of living the dream. Because how do you live the dream if you're not healthy?
Right.
You can't get around.
Right.
Um, it's a holistic approach
I
to
love that.
life and success.
It sounds like personal development has been a big part of your personal and business trajectory. You mentioned a couple of folks like Tony Robbins that have this tremendous amount of energy and ideas, and they're just connectors. The other thing I love about Tony Robbins specifically is he always seems to be out there on the cutting edge using his influence and connectivity to bring the best resources available to bear. I think he just had a webinar or a 3-day course that was 100% free.
He did.
Well,
Yeah.
not everybody resonates with Tony Robbins, but he's a great example of a resource.
Yeah. It's wonderful that he's driven by a compelling desire to teach and raise people up. It was called the Time to Rise Summit. I tuned in for part of it. We're going to a 10-day life and wealth mastery in Fiji this summer and business mastery. There's never an end to what you can learn. Another source of learning and networking are mastermind groups. I belong to at least two, maybe three different mastermind groups, and they're all valuable. You can learn from the leader of the group, but you're also learning from your peers and the other people you're networking with. And that's very important too.
Everything that you just said is validating. I look at your situation and, I'm not about envy, but you've created a lot of success in your life and yet you continue to invest heavily. Maybe it's not a vacation, but what a wonderful place to go.
From what I understand, we're at it for like 12 or 14 hours a day, and for 5 of those
Right.
days, we don't get
Right.
to eat. So I don't know how enjoyable that's
I
gonna
don't know what
be.
I think personal development is key to both life and business success.
I don't see how you can have lasting success in business unless you raise yourself up. And
Right.
if you raise yourself up, you're also going to be raising your team up. We used to, offer education opportunities to our team because we wanted them to grow.
Sure.
We always said that when somebody joined our company, we knew they were not coming on board for the rest of their life, that this would be just a portion of their life. We wanted to make sure that they would leave our employ better and that they would have a better life after spending however many years with us. We get great joy from watching the successes of the alumni from our company. It's fabulous.
So, Raul, I would like to have you tell the community a little bit. You've got this course that you just launched, Overcoming Overwhelm, Create a Smooth Running Business. Could you highlight for the community what you're doing with the course and what you hope the desired outcome is for somebody that might purchase that?
Well, the content of the course is the six principles that I just went over. There are 8 modules to the course, and the first is an introduction, and then each principle has its own module, and then a summation in the eighth module of, okay, where do you go from here? You have to reapply all of these principles continually. We talked about doing it at least once a year, better twice a year or more often, to make sure you're still adhering to the principles and actively applying them in your business. This course is designed to teach business owners how to be the owner and not the operator of their business, how to get out of pain points where they're overwhelmed or overworked, stretched too thin, not able to grow the business because they're holding the business back by being the bottleneck, by not delegating and using the systems. It's really the answer. Business owners can make a better life for themselves by using these principles, advance their business, and make more monetary success. It's available online. It's not a specific period of time that you have to take the course on a certain date.
Okay.
You can enroll at any time. There are recorded lessons. Each lesson has worksheets and exercises that you need to do. And then we have an online community where you can ask questions and get feedback. So it's not, just going to be set adrift with the contents of the course. I greatly
Love that.
encourage people to check it out on my website.
So, go ahead.
Just ralwest.com.
Absolutely. We'll have links and we'll have the path for that in the show notes. And I think that's an exciting opportunity for folks that need to bolster that kind of thing in their own businesses. Final 2 questions I like to ask all of my guests, Raul. Number 1, who has been the most impactful leader in your life or career, and how so?
Robert Kiyosaki.
Okay.
And it's because of all of the principles that we have learned from him, not only business principles, but life principles and mindset principles. Just a huge influence on us over 3 decades ago that we started learning from him. And I still feel his influence. There's still lessons that I just say, yep, I remember I learned this from Robert, and I'm still doing it. Tremendous impact on our lives, and
Love that.
many, many others, but he would be number one.
Yeah, I love that. I think Rich Dad Poor Dad is probably the one that he's most notable for.
Yeah.
I read that probably 15 years ago, and it
Oh,
it made me start thinking more. Even when I was in corporate, it made me start thinking more entrepreneurial.
the cash flow quadrant was exemplary,
I read that.
where you learn to be an employee, self-employed, or business owner, or an investor.
What is the best actionable leadership lesson that you've learned in your life or career? Could you please share that with the community?
Yes, investing in yourself.
Mm,
Getting the education, going to the courses, joining the masterminds, getting a mentor, all the things that you can do to better yourself and to learn and grow. That's the best thing that you can do for yourself, for your company. It makes you a better leader and a better person and more successful in life and business.
Thank you so much for taking time to jump on the podcast today and talk about your experience and lessons learned over the years and to provide this resource with your on demand course. I value your time. This has been 2 wonderful conversations that I've had with you. I'm so appreciative.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. It's been a pleasure and an honor to be on your show.
We'd like to thank our sponsor, Learning Edge, your go-to source for energy efficient building education. I'd like to thank the Rise Leader community. Please don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, like it, share, and leave us a review. Thank you.
That's it for this episode of The Rise Leader. Thanks for joining us today. To connect further, visit riseleadershipaz.com, where you can find show notes, resources, and more episodes. You can also find The Rise Leader on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show. Your feedback helps us reach more leaders and continue to deliver valuable content. Until next time, remember to step up, make a difference, and lead with impact. This is The Rise Leader, signing off.